Hi, and welcome back to this YouTube devotion series based on my book called Seasons. But you don't necessarily need to buy the book if you wanted to. It's available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback form. And if you cannot afford that or you don't have an app to read the books, go to my website, catherinewalden.com, and message me there and we'll chat. Today, we're going to be using a Bible verse as reference for the rest of our discussion, and it's Isaiah 9, verse 2. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shone. And we're going to title this, On Them Has Light Shone. I had the great joy and privilege of working with newcomers to Canada in the late 80s, early 90s, after my stint in Asia working in a refugee camp. My job here in Canada was basically to be a friend. One family in particular I bonded with. There were three sisters all around my age. Although they were sponsored by their eldest sister, she and her family weren't in Edmonton yet. And so really they were all by themselves. I often went over to their little apartment for tea and conversation. Although our English Vietnamese dictionaries were out all the time, we were still able to communicate pretty well. Case in point, one cold, snowy December day, I received a phone call from the eldest sister of the three, and she was upset. I could tell it by her tone of voice, and it was a gray, dim, mid-December day, very close to the shortest day of the year. I bundled up and trudged to the bus stop and arrived at their apartment lobby and buzzed to be let in. No answer. I buzzed again. Still no answer. I buzzed the third time. Finally, one of the sisters greeted me at the door, and I was rather stunned. She was wearing pajamas, and it was only about 3:45 in the afternoon. I was very confused. When I entered into their apartment, my confusion only deepened. All of the lights in the apartment were off, except for a little task light. I was trying to be polite, but I kept on looking at her pajamas and I didn't see her sisters. I asked, "Where are your sisters?" and she replied, "They're in bed." As we talked, the other sisters came out of the bedroom and we settled around the kitchen table with that one task light. And pretty soon I could see that behind their bright smiles there was some sadness going on. In fact, there was some deep sadness and depression going on. Whipping out my English Vietnamese dictionary and using a lot of sign language between them and I found out what the problem was. There were actually two problems. Number one, their landlord failed to replace the light bulbs in their apartment. So all of the bulbs burnt out. As it was December, it was almost pitch black in their basement suite by 3:45 in the afternoon. Number two, they were under the assumption it was as dark year-round in Canada as it was on that cold, snowy mid-December day. They were trying to keep a stiff upper lip. They were out of the refugee camp. They were safe from any war. But part of them longed to be back in Vietnam where it wasn't so cold and it wasn't so dark all the time. You see, this little family arrived in Canada mid-November. They'd only been here 1 month, and it got darker and darker every single day. It did them good to express how they were feeling, and I passed around their Kleenex box so they could dry their tears. As I explained, it is dark in December in Canada, but in June the sun doesn't set till at least 10 o'clock in our city. Then I told them further good news that the sun rose around 5 o'clock in the morning during the summertime. We also took care of the practical problem of not having any light bulbs. I promised them that I would send somebody over with light bulbs, and then I explained to them carefully where they could go to buy light bulbs when it wasn't snowing. When I left their apartment, it was darker than it was before I arrived there, but their countenances had changed. I had brought good news to them. Jesus calls us to be the light of the world and not to hide our light under a bushel. Isaiah 60, verse 1 to 3 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and deep darkness the people. But the Lord will arise over you, and his glory will be seen upon you. The Gentiles shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising." When somebody is truly depressed, it can be tempting to do everything to try to cheer them up and to exhort them to get over it and to think positively. However, if an individual is chronically depressed, it's important that we gently introduce light into their lives. My eyes are extremely light sensitive. That's one reason why I like to wear these when I'm doing these videos. It doesn't help me at all to go out into broad sunlight and be able to see right away. It takes a little bit of time for my eyes to adjust to the light. Have patience with those who might be in darkness. Gradually bring the light, but bring the light into their lives that will be restorative, gentle, and healing.